Mariana Ayala with an absolutely masterful performance of the national anthem. Our color commentator today in the booth, Trevor Spinelli, has been joining us today, part of our men's lacrosse roster today. Trevor, I was saying at the very outset of this game, Caldwell did get the better of Georgian court last year. Do you feel like, though, at this very early stage in the season, there's a bit of revenge that's going to be kicking in for the Lions today?
It's a good point to think about. And I think with having two matchups between these two teams this year, the revenge could come here or it could come down at Georgian court. I mean, these two teams are obviously familiar with each other in the conference and other sports, and you would say it's some sort of a rivalry matchup despite the sport being relatively new.
That is a very good point you made there. As teams are setting up, the Lions are going to kick off the compulsory event. The compulsory acro heat will be started off with the Georgian court Lions. As the teams are getting set up now, our SID, Jerry Milani, down there at the scoring table. The four judges lined up, ready to go. Training staff in each corner, making sure these athletes do not cause any major injuries, although with the amount of athleticism that you see typically during these matchups, it is very, very possible, but we are hoping for the best. So Georgian court now takes the floor. And jump out onto the mat. And for the compulsory acro event, here are the Lions. Applause comes from the Lions sideline. Great execution towards the very end, although there certainly were some scares from that second pyramid.
Good balance and coordination there, and good synchronization within the team. You were making a good point. There were some scares.
There were definitely some scares as the Cougars are now getting set to jump out onto the floor for the acro heat. After that, we'll have the compulsory pyramid heat, as the order will basically stay the same, as Georgian court will start off and then they'll switch over to Caldwell. And then after that, after all four heats of the compulsory event, we will get into the scores from the heats. As both teams are getting set up here. I think if you're the Cougar, here's Trevor, what do you think is going to be smart for you to make sure you can maintain a lead early?
I think it's just to get out to a flawless start, right? You don't want to have any major errors in the beginning that will be obvious to be able to be dinged on the score sheet. And you want to be as perfect as you can possibly be without having to feel like you have pressure on yourself, obviously so early into the season. And still a newer program here, but we've seen this program just start to really excel over the last few years after that rough first growing season. So it's just to get out to a flawless start and work as a team.
Exactly. Coach Amira Boyd's ready to go. Cougars now take the floor. Compulsory acro event. Here are the Cougars.
You see a lot more energy with the Cougars than you did with the Lions.
Exactly. There's a lot of juice flowing through the stadium today.
And a rough second half there for the Cougars.
Yeah.
They had Cadence vining up, and she kind of started to slip a little bit. That leg got out of position. So, you know, talked about flawlessness. A great start for the Cougars there, but near the end of that is where their points will definitely be deducted. Kind of an unfortunate ending.
That's a very great point. They got off to a really hot start. There was a lot of juice. A lot of the energy really flowing through that Caldwell sideline was really kicking in. And we'll see how the Cougars can respond into the pyramid, as the Lions are getting set now for the pyramid heat. As for the Lions, their pyramid heat, here are the players on the pyramid heat. Number 21, Luann Gregan. Number 28, Caitlin Meyer. Number 22, Emily Miller. Number 9, Chloe Jorgeson. Pardon me. Number 15, Catherine Sentice. Number 24, Emma Bennett, excuse me. As that will be the players heading out for the pyramid heat, as well as number 23, Carolyn Yakula. Number 8, Mia Zdanowicz. Number 2, Ava Marjoli. Number 18, Kimberly Schwadalad. Number 19, Karen Gonzalez. Number 11, Emmeline Bear. And number 3, Ali Pompliano. And it looks like from where we are standing, it looks like almost the entire Georgian court lineup's going to be heading out there for this pyramid event, as more and more fans start crowding into the Newman Center. It's always great to see, especially for such a brand new sport.
Oh, yeah,
it's great to see the amount of turnout, and the fans really are bundling in today.
The support for acro and tumbling here has been nothing but incredible to see so far in these few years of this program. We see a lot of family members come out and support their daughters, and something you could really appreciate at home.
Exactly. Here go the Lions.
Nice performance by the Lions there.
That was so technically sound by the Lions there. Very efficient. We'll see how the Cougars can match that. I think for the Cougars, though, I think you got to keep up the energy that you had at the very start of the acro portion. And I think you just got to keep that throughout.
The energy was there for sure, but adding in with that energy is putting the performance together, right? So sometimes having too much of that energy will have you make these little mistakes here and there. And obviously we saw that the first go round with the compulsory acro performance. We'll see if the Cougars with the pyramid can be a little bit more flawless and technically sound on this next attempt.
Coach Boyd gives some final words of encouragement, along with brand new assistant coach Alexis Palmieri. Cougars trotting out a monster lineup. Here come the Cougars. Got off to a hot start in the acro heat. Let's see how they can respond in the pyramid heat. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. And a dangerous fall near the end there. Cougars were able to rally, though, so we got to give them credit for that. But
Cougars off to kind of a rough start here, but thankfully no injuries on that left side pyramid.
That is very, very true. Thankfully, no major injuries for the Cougars. Number 9, that was Piper Fitzmaurice, who was the one who kind of had a very dangerous tumble towards the end. Thankfully, though, she is all right and is moving around. So that is a very good sign. So now we move on to the toss heat of the compulsory event. We have one more heat in the tumbling. We have one more heat in the tumbling, and then afterwards we'll get down to the scores.
Coach Boyd trying to calm her team down and some nerves. Obviously, they practice these routines daily, and this is only the compulsory, right? So you go down in one of the events, you still have 5 more to make up for it if you're Caldwell, but you don't want to put yourself in too much of a hole early, and we'll see if they can get those jitters out, those home first meet jitters.
That's a very good point. It is very early. Again, the first home meet. This is only, if we're legitimately thinking about it, this is only the 5th home meet under Coach Boyd. Only the 5th home match. So there certainly is a lot of those early jitters that you are starting to work out. But I think at the Cougars, I think they can rally easily as the Lions are getting set now. They're going to take the floor in just a moment. As more and more fans are crowding in. My goodness, the Newman Center is absolutely packed tonight. This is a wonderful crowd turnout.
Got to get this crowd for basketball games.
Exactly. We'll see hopefully this crowd on Saturday for Super Saturday as men's and women's rosters will host the Dominican University Chargers. So we'll see how the basketball crowd can turn out. But for now, we're all about acro. Here comes the toss.
Great toss performance there from the Lions. 2 beautiful synchronized tosses. Perfect execution and landings. That'll net a good score for the Lions, Nick.
That is a very good point. So technically sound. You got to give credit to this Georgian court roster. They have been so technically sound so far today. See if the Cougars can rally up the energy. Again, they got off to a red-hot start in that acro heat. And we'll see if they can bring that energy back. Coach Boyd giving some words of encouragement to the roster. That's one thing I will say about Coach Boyd. That's absolutely incredible. She gets every athlete involved.
Very personable coaching. You got to like that, especially from a sport that needs that type of coaching, something so, tightly scored and judged, and sport where you need all your teammates in unison.
Exactly. We're still in the first half. And here come the Cougars. Nice gesture from the crowd, giving them a big round of applause. Let's see how the Cougars can respond.
Here comes the toss event.
And there we go. That was the shot in the arm the Cougars needed. They got the energy back. A great finish to that event. And that's, I think, what the Cougars needed. I think they need to just get those early jitters out, Trevor. You were absolutely spot on with that take. They just need to get the early jitters out, and now they're back and rumbling.
And on that right side of that pyramid on that toss, a very high throw in the air. Fitzmaurice got a lot of air under herself, and it was a great job by the Cougars being able to catch her despite some hard contact there.
Having the chance to talk to Captain Jill Riggio early in the week, she was saying at Piper Fitzmaurice, people don't understand how much bounce she really does have. And you saw it a little bit on that toss event with the amount of height she gained. Very good job. And now we go on to the tumbling heat. This will be the final heat of the compulsory event. And so obviously the Lions, they will be starting off. As the Lions now take to the mat. Here comes the tumbling event, Georgian Court Lions.
The Georgia court would have wanted to be a little more technically sound thus far. Just a little not in unison there.
Just a little bit. They did manage to gain it back towards the end.
You saw in the beginning Ashley Salveson on one of those back flips. Slipped a little bit. She was able to recover nicely later in the event. But Caldwell, a chance here to capitalize.
Exactly. You have a chance to really gain it back. And you see Coach Boyd, she's immediately going to those athletes saying, hey, let's get the urgency right back. Let's keep the energy flowing. I think there's a lot of good to come out of this event. I think when you consider how early on a little bit of the struggles came, they certainly have managed to salvage it towards the end. So I think you're dead on with that. I think the Cougars could really get back into it. As Salveson, she's been great so far today. The freshman from Old Bridge, New Jersey. As the Cougars are getting set now for their tumbling portion of the compulsory event. After that, we'll go silent and wait for the judges to input the scores. If you go on the Caldwell Athletics website and go to the Acrobatics and Tumbling schedule, there is a link to the live stats that you are able to click on and watch, as the stats will be entered in real time, thanks to our incredible crew led by our SID, Jerry Milani.
As we await the Cougars here to go for the tumbling portion.
That was right on cue. Trevor Spinelli makes the call. It's almost like you were the one out there giving the reads.
The encouragement from Captain McKenna Lanza from the side. Here go the Cougars. Their attempt at the compulsory tumble.
And the Cougars finish off the tumbling event very strong. A lot of energy, a lot of emotion. As there were some things to definitely look at. Some slippage we've seen on the mat today.
Yeah, Adelie Bowen kind of struggling with her footing in that event, trying to get back into it in the end. But everybody came together, and we'll see what the score is for the Cougars.
Exactly, but you're seeing the words of encouragement from the roster. As all the teams, they are happy and excited. So now we will await the judges to compile the scores for the event. While that gets logged, we will go silent. Don't go anywhere, folks. You are watching Acrobatics and Tumbling on the CACC Network. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. After a little brief short break, we are back. We do have the score updates. As currently as it stands, the Lions took home the compulsory event by a score of 27 to the Cougars 25.10. There's a lot of things to really look at, a lot of great things to watch. Definitely some things to look out there for, Trevor, though. What do you think the Cougars are going to have to do to get back into this?
You know, I mentioned it right out the get-go, and it was just about being flawless, and there was a lot of compulsory events there where the Cougars were not flawless. But luckily, they trailed by less than 2 total points, which is honestly not a bad way to come out of that first event.
Exactly. When you consider, especially with a little bit of kind of the struggles going into the pyramid event. The pyramid event, Cougars got outscored by almost 3 total points as the Lions took on the pyramid event by a score of 9.25 to the Cougars 6.60. So the Cougars definitely, they are still needing to rally, but they are not out of this just yet.
And that tumbling score for both teams scoring a 2.0, rough go around for both sides in that compulsory tumbling, that is.
Exactly. So now the next event is the Acro event. This marks the beginning of the optional portion of the meet. Each team will compete with skills previously chosen with different possible start values. There will be 2 and 4 athletes on the floor. With each heat, and as many as 8 in the synchronized heat. Heat 1 has 5 elements. Heat 2 has 6 and is synchronized. Heat 3 has 7 elements. Lions are out on the floor.
See the 5 element here. Great performance from the Lions there. Great balance up top by Luane Gregan. She did a phenomenal job there being held up.
It's a very good point as the Cougars, they're still not out of this. Not out of it just yet.
See how the Cougars respond in that 5 element. See the huddle with Coach Boyd, Coach Palmieri.
See how the Cougars and the 5 elements. Don't forget, there's 3 parts of the acro event: the 5 element, the 6 element, and the 7 element. Again, it's a combination of multiple different events. As the Cougars now take the floor. And here we go with the 5 element in acro for Caldwell. And look at the excitement from the Cougars. That was incredible. Great job by Fitzmaurice to hold at the very top. As a fantastic finish to end off the 5 element. We'll see how the Lions can respond on the 6 element, as that just gave the shot in the arm the Cougars needed.
Definitely a shot in the arm that they needed, and you love to see the excitement at a performance finally executed to the way that they wanted.
Lions on standby. And the 6 element here. So after this, we'll head on to the pyramid event. Once the pyramid event finishes, we will take a short break for halftime. As after about a 3-minute break, halftime will end, and the second half will begin with the toss event. But we still got a couple more to go. As Cougars still looking to rally back, down by just about 2 points. And here now begins the second heat in the acro event, the 6th element, as the Lions will now take the floor.
And you know, partner, a good job at the end there by the Lions to get some points back, because that start was very shaky, specifically on that right side half pyramid with Chloe Jurgensen kind of falling and losing her balance a little bit in the air. They tried to catch her, but a nice recovery at the end for the Lions to at least salvage some points from that 6th element attempt.
Took the words right out of my mouth, partner. That's a very good point you just made. It looked like Jorgensen kind of lost her footing as she was coming down off of that start, but thankfully they did manage to end it on a very strong note for the Lions. We'll see how the Cougars, can the Cougars repeat that energy coming out of the 5 element? And you saw the excitement after they finished up at the 5 element. We'll see how they can respond to the 6. As a jam-packed crowd today here in the Newman Center on a bit of a cold day.
It's been a cold week.
Been a bit of a cold week. Thankfully, though, we have no snow today, although there is some reports that there will be snow tomorrow. So if you do manage to get the bad weather, make sure you stay safe.
Yeah, it looks like more down south than here, so maybe if you're by Georgian Court, maybe more down there.
Exactly, towards the Georgian Court area, and hope that these athletes stay safe. Prayers up to them. There's our SID, Jerry Milani. Calls it out. Here come the 6th element as the Cougars will now take the floor. And a great job at the end for the Cougars. As a little bit of scares were coming as Cadence Vining kind of lost her balance at the very, very top. Thankfully, she did manage to finish off strong. As that's a great job by the Cougars in the 6th element.
Great job by Nariah Sims holding her balance there and closing that one out. Great job in the air for the Cougars. Flyers there, and we'll take that in the 6th element for sure.
Exactly, and you could see just looking at the Cougars bench, and you could see them on the side. You brought up this point very, very great, which was that the Cougars, it kind of felt like early on in that compulsory event, it kind of felt like there was a lot of jitters. There wasn't a lot of oomph coming through. Now I'm looking at the sideline. Everybody's communicating, and everybody's got their juice back and their energy back. Do you think maybe that was by design?
I don't know if I'd say it's by design. It's just what happens. It's just human nature. Coming out here, first home meet, obviously a lot of energy. We heard the crowd roar in the beginning, and we heard each performer and their teammates being super loud. And as much as you want to have that passionate encouragement, you really want to focus on the execution. I mean, that's what this sport is all about, is executing, especially down the stretch in tight areas. So I think they've settled in now. They've got rid of those jitters, and they know they're in for a dogfight.
Yeah, let's see how the Lions can respond in the 7 element, the final portion of the acro event.
Flawless there.
Lions looking strong so far.
McGregor doing all the heavy lifting in this set here.
And a great job there by the Lions. You brought up a great point. LeGregor did a great job doing the heavy lifting, but how about Mia Zdanowicz giving that great and picture-perfect kind of turn a little bit as they were holding up. Lions did a great job to respond to the Cougars, who seemed to have almost flipped the momentum back on their side in this event.
A great job with the base there from the Lions. They were able to do a nice job in the beginning with DeGregan, and then she kind of lost her balance and was able to get it back just like that.
It's a very great point to hear as Coach Boyd and Coach Palmieri giving some word of encouragement. As the Cougars are getting set now for their 7 element of the acro event. After that, we'll head on to the pyramid event, and we head into halftime. Cougars are still down. They're down by around 2 points as the Lions lead 27 to the Cougars 25.1. So let's see how the Cougars can respond. They've had a great 5 and 6 elements. Can they finish it off strong with the 7? Cougars will now make their way out onto the mat. Final heat of the acro event. It is the 7 element. Cougars are up.
Vining, Mosley, Riggio, Dunn, and Lanza for Caldwell. Mosley with a nice job basing so far.
Mosley being very, very stable. That's what you need in this event. And Vining with a strong finish. You could see the roar from the Cougars side. They're excited. What a finish to that 7 element as we will sit here and wait for the scores to finish through. While the scores are getting processed, partner, what did you like from Georgian Court in that acro event?
I think Georgian Court was a little cleaner in certain elements. The 6 and the 7, I thought they were just a little bit cleaner than the Cougars were. That comes with, obviously, experience, team experience. That's what I liked about the Lions.
And then what did you have to make of the Cougars in the acro event?
Well, the Cougars did a nice job recovering from the compulsory event. I think they did better overall as a team. They finally found some things about themselves, were able to work together. Less mistakes for sure as well.
It's a very good point as the scores are being entered now inside the stat sheet. As the scores are being entered, we have the scores for the 5 and 6 elements. We're awaiting on the score for the 7. As so far, the Lions take home a very narrow 5 element, whereas the Cougars kind of ran away with the 6 element. As We're still awaiting the score on the 7 element. Up, and here they come. So the Lions managed in the acro event to score a 22.45. So we'll see how that changes. And their main score will now be changed to a 49.45. That is the score for the Lions. We are awaiting the 7 element on the Cougars, and we'll see their event totals. And we'll see. I think maybe if the Cougars, yep, so far, they have taken the 7 elements. I think maybe there's a chance the Cougars might have taken the lead.
I don't think the Cougars will take the lead, but it'll become a very narrow deficit here.
You are right on. The Cougars do not take the lead, but they keep it close as the Cougars' score is now 48.7.
And shout out Caldwell for winning the acro event there by about 1.15.
It's a very good point. It was that very ending, those 6 and 7 elements, that is what kept them in the match. And so now we get set now for the acro event, or excuse me, that's the pyramid event. So the pyramid event will be the final event of the first half. In the pyramid event, athletes will build 3 layers in structure. The start value of the heat is determined by the difficulty and the combination of the entry, structure, and dismount. Pyramid event has 3 different heats with different requirements for each heat. Heat 1 must be inversion, heat 2 must be synchronized, and heat 3 is an open heat. The officials are going to be looking for a hold at the top for 3 seconds, following by the entry, the stability of the structure, and a smooth dismount that will end with a catch or a landing. The Lions have made their way out onto the floor. They're about to jump out onto the mat. There's a big lineup here for the Lions. Cougars are down by 0.75. Not out of it just yet. But we shall see how the Cougars can get back into it as the Lions are ready to go. And a great job there by the Lions. That was a strong inversion pyramid to start off.
Very strong open. Great job there. From the bottom, that was Kimberly Shadowwald. Able to keep her balance and her strength. An impressive performance from the Lions. I don't see anything wrong with that at all.
Exactly. It's very tough, too, when you got the one athlete who's just kind of just sitting there holding up 2 by herself. It's very, very difficult, but thankfully the Lions were able to pull it off. So Coach Boyd rallies the roster. Inversion pyramid on its way shortly here for the Cougars. Then we head to synchronized and then open. And that will be the pyramid event. Partner, do you think it's wise when you're in sort of the pyramid event? Do you think it's wise to have a very complex structure, or do you think it's best to keep it simple?
I think it's best to keep it simple, but also you want to make it seem still somewhat impressive.
As the Cougars now take the floor. Inversion pyramid. Caldwell Cougars. What a job there. I was holding my breath a little bit on that inversion pyramid. Thankfully, everybody made it out all right.
Yeah, I was a little worried at first that Cardone was tipping over without them wanting her to, and luckily the Cougars able to recover and catch her and make it look like it was planned all along.
Exactly. That was a very strong landing by Cardone as well. Thankfully, you could see a little bit of the prayers were answered on the Cougars' side as everybody's safe and sound. Great job in the inversion pyramid. So now we got the synchronized pyramid coming up shortly. And we'll see how the Lions can respond. A very strong inversion pyramid the Lions had. So we'll see if they can keep the momentum up in the synchronized. Ladies and gentlemen, as I stated at the very start, this is one of 2 home matches for the Cougars. Their first home match, obviously, today, as you're watching on the CACAC network. But if you like more acrobatics and tumbling, you can catch the Cougars again at home March 11th. That is a Tuesday at 5 p.m. here on the Newman Center against American International College for Senior Day. But let's talk about right now, Lions take the floor for synchronized. That was incredible by the Lions. Great balance, great execution.
The Lions have been very good at being able to adjust when something's about to go right as well. I mean, I saw on the right side there, Caroline Yasulu almost had her leg caught while on top of the pyramid in that stretched out position. And she was able to get her leg wrapped around from her teammate's face, stay in the air, balanced in position, and nice job by the Lions.
You got to give credit for the Lions for those 2 bases, kind of in that kind of like almost spider walk position, holding up the 2 athletes. God, then it just makes my quad. Yeah, just makes my quads hurt.
That bridging right from the ground. We talked about that, being able to bridge up and keep your position, not only quads but abdominal muscles, and very hard what these athletes do. We got to give them credit there.
So we'll see how the Cougars can respond. The synchronized pyramid for the Cougars, as Caldwell will now take the mat. And a great job there by the Cougars in the synchronized pyramid. Me and you were kind of holding our breath a little bit as we saw Fitzmaurice go up after it was the compulsory pyramid that we kind of saw Fitzmaurice take an almost dangerous tumble. Thankfully this time, no flaws, went up great.
She's such a talented flyer, but she's always got a look on her face that almost is like a nerve kind of jitter look, which always, has us on the edge of our seat. But an impressive performance there. Great flying ability from Vining and Fitzmaurice. Per usual, 2 to go at it for the Cougars. And a nice job in the synchronized pyramid. Looked a little better than the inversion did.
That's a very good point. So now the scores will be coming in shortly for the pyramid event. That was the open, excuse me. Pardon me, so we got the open coming through now. Very good call out here by Trevor Spinelli. That's why you're the best in the business. And so,
thanks, partner.
So the open portion of the pyramid coming through now. Lions take the floor. We'll see how the Lions can finish off the pyramid event. As the Lions once again going with that sort of bridging, sort of the bridge structure.
And I think the judges are really going to appreciate that bridge because we haven't seen the Cougars do that. That was a flawless catch as well.
Smooth
that is a
catch.
great performance from the Lions.
That was smooth by the Lions. That was, I believe, that was number 21. Yes, it was.
Might be the most flawless thing I've seen so far today.
Number 21, Luann LeGregan with a very smooth landing coming off the descent. It was a very good job by the Lions in the pyramid. We'll see how the Cougars can respond now in the open. Again, this is the final heat of the pyramid event. So we'll see how the Cougars can finish off. They've had two very strong showings in the inversion and synchronized. Hopefully, though, they can piece it all together for a very strong ending. So big roar from the Lions as we are still waiting for the Cougars to now take the floor.
Both these teams bring the roar, and we'll see what the Cougars can do in the open pyramid to finish off the first half of this meet.
Here come the Cougars. They take the floor. The open pyramid on its way shortly.
Gleason, Mosley, Morales, Vining, Dunn, Buccelli, and Lanza.
Lanza giving out the calls.
Morales in the air now. Boosting Vining up. Cadence extension in the air. Goes down, twisting. And a good catch.
Very good catch, very strong. Got to give credit to the Cougars there. Very good and consistent ending. As we are now waiting for the scores, as the score for the inversions have come in. The Lions will take the inversion portion of the pyramid, 8.9 to 8.5. As halftime has now occurred, as we will go off the air once we finish reading out the scores so far. Lions scoring a 9.2 in the synchronized. Cougars with an 8.6. And with an 8.65 in the synchronized. See how the Cougars did in the open, and we'll let you know.
Let's see how the Lions do in the open. That's what I'm curious about, with how well they performed in that section.
Exactly.
That was their cleanest event so far of the day.
Using going over the Newman Center. Crowd has gotten up. They're heading over to take some snacks. Our wonderful training staff working on some of the athletes, making sure that they're all stretched out okay. As we still await the score for the open pyramid. Oh, and it looks like we are getting an update, as the Lions managed to score a 9.4 in the open, but the Cougars scoring a 9.05. And the Lions will end up with a 27.5 in the event total, with the Cougars scoring a 26.25.
Great performance for both teams in the pyramid. Each team in that event for the inversion, synchronized, and open, scoring an 8.5 or above. And as I mentioned, that flawless performance from the Lions in the open, they put up a 9.4 in the open pyramid. The Cougars going over a 9 in the open as well with a 9.05. So nice job by both teams, partner. But the Lions able to extend their lead, but not by much. They're still only up by about 1.7 in this meet, which means it is anybody's game, especially when you get down to that team event at the end. That's where all the points are gobbled up and taken.
That's a very strong point you just made there. The total scores, Lions lead 76.65 to the Cougars 74.95. Nick Iacovo, Trevor Spinelli, live in the Newman Center. We'll be back shortly for the second half, which will begin with the toss event. As for the toss event, this event's known as, you will see 4 athletes toss a teammate into the air. The teammates tossed in the air, known as the top. They will execute a flip or twist before being caught. There are 3 heats in this event: the 450 salto heat, the synchronized heat, and the open heat. As a synchronized toss will feature 2 groups, and both should look exactly alike, as the 450 salto will begin with the Georgian Court Lions.
It's always interesting to see how teams come out of the break, if there's any rust there, and a nice catch in the back end.
That was a very dangerous catch, too. Great grab, though.
You like to see the team get a little more fired up in that, but maybe coming out of a break. But as you mentioned, a great catch. That was Kimberly Shadowald in the back, doing a nice job holding that base and being a vital part to this Lions team.
A great catch. And again, you said you would like the energy up a little bit more, but I think the Lions have been so technically sound all day today that thankfully they have managed to keep the lead, although it's been very, very kind of sparse. But we'll see how the Cougars can respond. Cougars are getting set up. Lions getting set up.
See how the Cougars can respond. Great catch by the Lions and a nice job on that 450 salto.
Exactly. The Lions were very, very technically sound for that salto. We'll see how the Cougars, see if they can match it.
Beautiful backflip by Cadence Fining. Great catch by all 4 women, and a risky maneuver there for the Cougars. They're able to pull it off, partner.
Exactly. Got to give credit, though. The height that Vining got on that flip was absolutely incredible. She almost touched the ceiling with how high she went up. Incredible job by the Cougars. I think this one, though, might be a little bit too close to call. But we'll see how Caldwell can respond as we get set now for the synchronized portion of the toss. Caldwell still searching for answers.
In this toss event, officials are looking for extension at the top. The height of the top when one woman is executing her skill, the top's body position, and tight catches by the base. This is the synchronized toss. This is the Georgian Court Lions attempt.
And I gotta say, the Lions looked in sync there. look very much in sync on those two flips. Again, not a lot of energy
I
coming
was
out
just
of
going to
that.
say, I'd like to see a lot more energy from the side, but I was thinking the same exact thing. You know, I feel like if the Cougars were able to pull that off, what the Lions just did, they'd be, jumping out of the building. Now, does that say something about where they've been before, or does that say that one side needs more energy than the other? I'm not sure.
I think that is a very good point. I also think if you're the Lions, you're also saying to yourself, hey, we got the lead. Let's just continue doing what we do best. Don't worry about trying to match fire for fire, trying to match with the firepower. At the end of the day, if you're the Lions, you're saying to yourselves, you know what? We got the chance to pull off the win here. Let's get to it. Let's not try to change anything. And so the Cougars now had a very great 450 salto. So we'll see how they could do in the synchronized. And then we head to the open and then the scores.
With after this toss event having the only tumbling in team left, the Cougars don't have any room really for those mistakes that they might have made early on, right? We talked about this being such a tight contest, and sometimes sports and these team kind of sports like this come down to who makes less mistakes, right?
Exactly, and then after that, we get the tumbling portion, which, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say, me and Trevor, we called multiple of these matches before. We have never seen something quite as exciting as the tumbling event, as the duo, trios, and quads coming through for the tumble. It's going to be awesome to watch. But first, we got to get through the toss. And so the Cougars will now take the floor in the synchronized toss on its way.
Lanza in the back counting two little mini groups.
It's Pike, and that is Fitzmaurice and Vining, who are going to be the two tops. You can hear and see the cheers from Coach Palmieri and Coach Boyd. They're very much satisfied with that performance. That was a very great job in that toss by the Cougars.
It was a great job by the Cougars. It's Morris and Vining did a nice job holding themselves up, getting top extension on those two attempts. And the base is doing a nice job catching. That's what the judges want to see, those tight catches by the bases on the bottom. You saw them both there, and a nice job by Fitzmaurice, able to hold her body once she went down because she was twisting a little bit to the left, and she was able to keep it going.
See how much energy the Cougars can really keep up. This is getting a little bit too close to call. There's a lot of good that's come out of this event so far. The Georgian court Lions will take the floor for the open portion of the toss. Here come the Lions. That's a good toss through the air.
What's a good toss? Is that to Gregan again?
Exactly. Very technically sound. Lions, nothing too flashy. Just keeping with what works.
Gregan with kind of an inverted front flip there coming out of that. Kind of went the other way than what we're normalized to seeing. And, yeah, as you mentioned, it works. Get the scores on the board. No mistakes. Lions, solid toss event.
Exactly. Very, very strong. Very consistent. Lions have done that so far in this toss event. They haven't done anything too kind of flashy, kind of anything to really wow the audience. They've just been very, very consistent. And they've been so technically sound, they've managed to land the flips. Doesn't look like they've made a lot of mistakes.
See if the Cougars take more of a risk here with their open toss performance. As you mentioned, historically, with this Cougars team being so new, some of their scores over the past couple of years have not been, maybe as high as we've desired here. So maybe Georgia Court's thinking, let's just get some solid scores on the board. No mistakes, and we'll be able to run away with this one.
Exactly. Let's see how the Cougars can respond. Cougars take the floor in the open toss.
This is Fitzmaurice, Morales, Aiello, Cardone, Sims, and the captain of this heat, Bush. She's the counter in the back. Flawless job by the Cougars. Fitzmaurice lands perfectly in the center of the mat, caught by her teammates. Nice job by the Cougars.
That's a great job there by Fitzmaurice. Landing through again. Fitzmaurice got out to a bit of a rough start early, but thankfully she has managed to rally and keep it all together.
And it's hard to do that, especially, think about that first event in the compulsory, how she almost went back, almost fell on her neck. You have to have a lot of mental strength and courage to be able to want to go up again and keep doing it over and over again, and, without fearing that going to happen. A lot of trust in your teammates. And
exactly, got to give credit. The scores have been entered in the toss event, The Lions scoring an 8.9 in the 450 compared to the Cougars' 8.55. And then the Lions, shockingly, with a 9.2 in the synchronized compared to the Cougars' 8.65. And then the Lions finishing off strong with a 9.40 in the open compared to the Cougars' 9.05, meaning that the Lions would score a 27.5 in the event, whereas the Cougars would score 26.25. So we will be waiting for the
1.25 score advantage win in the toss event for the Lions. They'll extend their overall lead to around 3.5. And Caldwell's got some work to make up in the tumbling and team. But again, this is a ridiculously close meet. And there's obviously opportunities for the Cougars to fight back despite the lead advancing just a little bit more for the Lions.
Exactly. And we see the scores are getting updated a little bit. The Lions would score a 7.25 in the synchronized compared to and they also would score a 7.9 in the salto.
Excuse me, our scores were wrong. So the Cougars might actually have the lead after these scores are put in, but we shall see.
That's a very good point. There's a very good chance the Cougars might have taken the lead at the very tail end of this. Oh, man, the Cougars, talk about going into business. The Lions would score 23.1, and Caldwell amazingly would score a 25. Would score 25.35, meaning that the Cougars
are at 100.3. So Caldwell's at 100.3. The Georgian Court Lions are at 100.05. And they've taken the lead, but we're already on to the tumbling portion. We got to go, partner.
Exactly. We do got to go. The Lions have lost the advantage. It is a .25 game.
And that was a great performance right off the bat. Gianna Marisol, Lawayne LaGregan, great job out the bat. Flawless back flips and moonsaults and flying everywhere. We've talked about that tumbling being so fun to watch. The duos, the trios, the quads, the aerials, the six element, and the open. You just saw the duo for Georgian Court. And Caldwell leads this meet by under 1. So it is neck and neck still, despite the Cougars taking over. Exactly. And so we'll see Caldwell go right.
They'll go right into the duo for the tumbling. Out there, it's going to be number 23, Avery Dunn. And then as well as number 14, Mariana Aiello. That will be your duo. And then your trio for the Cougars will be coming up shortly.
Lanza's set up with them, so I'm not sure if they're going to run the trio right away.
Nope. I believe Lanza is just going to be giving out sort of the count, as we saw a little bit on the Georgian Court side. Unfortunately, we were a little bit too busy focusing on the scoring chart. That's most important at the end of the day, is getting the scores correct. It is a .25 game. Caldwell does hold on to the lead. However, though, they are going to need a strong showing in this event if they want to hold on to it. And so we'll see if Dunn and Aiello can match what we saw from the Lions. Avery Dunn, a freshman captain. Not often you see that. But here they go.
Nice job by Don and Aiello.
Exactly. Great job. They kind of hug it out, give it a high five. Coach Boyd meeting at the very end. That was very crisp, very clean. Good job by the both of them. And so now the trio is going to be coming up shortly.
Yeah, for Georgian Court, it's going to be Catherine Santiz, Emmeline Bear, and Ashley Salveson.
I think if you're the Lions, I think maybe you need to put a little bit of spark back into this roster here, and I think maybe a big performance here in the trio could potentially provide that. Do you think of the Lions, though, do you think it's smart to kind of waste all of your energy now, or do you think they should save it for the team?
Oh, I think you go all out on both events. I mean, the team's obviously the one that brings those majority points. But whatever you have up your sleeve for the team, it's set. You know what you're going to be putting out there, the product. You practice that event the most in practice. It takes the most effort to collaborate together. We'll see what 11, 12, and 15 here, Barr, Salveson, and Santiz can bring to the floor for the Lions in the trio.
Lions with the trio tumble.
Here we go.
It's a great
and
job.
That was as beautiful as can be. Great synchronization there. Salveson looked a little nervous in the middle. They were able to get the job done.
It's a great job, and as you mentioned before, they got a little bit of energy coming through on that Georgian Court side. And I think that's what you needed.
I think Coach Sierra Garcia really trying to get that out of them and get it back into their sideline. Obviously losing the lead is not fun. But this is a tightly contested contest. These two teams so even.
Coach Garsha and her squad looking good. Cougars now are up for the trio. It's going to be Kamora Bush, Piper Fitzmaurice, and Nariah Sims. So 2 freshmen and the junior veteran will be on the floor. Trio tumble coming on its way shortly for the Cougars, and then we head to the quad. And the Cougars, my goodness, wait till you see the star-studded line of the Cougars are trotting out there for the quad. For the quad tumble. We'll get to that in a moment. The athletes are set in motion, and they'll be ready to go.
That is beautiful from the Cougars, starting off an aerial and going into a little twist. They took a risk there, and they delivered.
That's one of those gambles that you have to take, especially at this portion of the matchup. I think Coach Boyd kind of understands the urgency that, we got the lead. We got to start pulling away.
And you see the talk on the Georgian Court side kind of looking around like they just hit that. Where do we go now?
Looking for answers. We'll see if they can respond to it in the quad. For the Lions, your lineup for the quad, it's going to be number 8, Maya Zandowitz, number 18, Kimberly Schadewald, number 5, Caitlin Zaccardo, and number 23, Caroline Yaculo. That is your quad tumble. Let's see what we're going to find from the Lions. Had a very solid showing in the trios and the duos so far. We still got 3 more areas to go. We've got the quad, we got the aerial portion, the 6 element, and the open. So the tumbling portion still on its way. Lions now take the floor. And they're on their way.
You know, a good performance there from the Lions, but I can't say I do love the speed in that one. It looked like they were, a little slow compared to the Cougars side, and a good execution on those back flips. Obviously, it's tough with 4 people.
Exactly. With the quad, you got to have great spacing, and it looked like the Lions had just that. Very strong. Great execution so far. We'll see how the Cougars can respond. And again, the Cougars had a very strong duo and trio. They've had a very strong second half. They came out swinging in the pyramid event, or excuse me, in the toss, actually. They came out strong in the toss with a clean sweep victory in the toss. So far, I think maybe you have to give a slight edge to them in the tumbling, although.
And what an exciting, sorry to cut you off, but an exciting quad group coming. And you're right, the tumbling, I think you'd have to give the advantage to the Cougars so far. But this quad is Cardone, Bain, Bowen, and Vereen. And obviously, I mentioned Bowen earlier struggling a little bit on those backflips early in the compulsory event, but she is such a young competitor here. Youngest on her team, so we'll see how she's able to rebound here in the quad for the Cougars. Nice mix of experience out there, having Cardone, the senior, Bain, the sophomore, and Bowen and Vereen, the 2 freshmen. Caldwell with a big chance to up the score here. I think they'd be able to capitalize off that quad performance from the Lions.
Exactly. You'll see Vereen in a few short moments, as after the quad, she will be the Caldwell representative for the aerial portion of the tumbling. So let's see how this squad can do. Caldwell set up now for the quad portion of the tumble. Lanza will be giving out the call. You can see at both corners, you can see Coach Boyd at the very end corner. Down right by where the Cougars side, Coach Palmieri. A big point that the team has made so far, I've been talking to a lot of the athletes, they said what Coach Palmieri has brought to this team is a very big emphasis on being strong and technique. Pardon me, I'm getting lost over my words, but they have said technique has been a big theme that Coach Palmieri has brought to this team, and we've seen it so far, especially in the second half.
We have. She's a great addition to the coaching staff. Obviously has the experience doing this, and I think that's so important. And also to have, women around similar in age to the competitors really brings a relatability sense from the coach.
Exactly, and Coach Palmieri, a 2-time champion at Frostburg State, she knows how to win big, and she's hoping to bring that expertise to this roster. Cougars make their way onto the mat. And here we go for the quad. Incredible job. They're all in sync. Fantastic execution. You could see Cougars bench is pumped up for that. Great job by Caldwell on the quad. So now we got the aerial portion of the tumbling for the Lions. Gianna Mirasol is going to be representative for the Lions in the aerial portion. See now, since it is the aerial portion, number 7, Mirasol, she's lined up at one of the corners as she's going to go from corner to corner doing this aerial portion. This event has been too tough to call so far. Gianna Mirasol getting set to go. And the Lions' aerial portion of the tumble begins now. Great job by Mirasol. That was about as picture perfect as you could get.
I think she dabbed on the way out. A little celebration there. But yeah, picture perfect from Mirasol. Those backflips looked beautiful, and I didn't really see a mistake there. I'd like to see more energy from our teammates. I mean, being the one person that goes out there, that's a lot of pressure. But
exactly. Mirasol, what a great job. You mentioned the dab at the very end, kind of showing a little bit of some swagger. A little bit, kind of giving her team some juice.
Jackie Vereen coming off that quad performance, now going solo on the aerial. Big spot for her, starting all the way in the back corner next to Coach Palmieri.
And after this, we will move on to the 6th element of the tumbling, and then we have the open section. And then we have our final event, which is the team event. Folks, if you are tuning in to the live stats, you can find them on the CaldwellAthletics.com website. If you go on and check towards the team portion, the team slide, we have all of the scores up so far. Currently, as it stands, as we look at the events, the Lions ran away early on as they would win the first 3 events. And clean sweep the first half, or excuse me, actually, pardon me. They would win the compulsory, and then they would just barely lose in the acro, but then would dominate at the very end of the pyramid. And then the Cougars came out swinging in the toss event. So we continue on with the tumbling.
Here goes Vereen.
Wow.
This gym erupts.
How about Vereen with the kind of somersault front flip to kick things off? That was extraordinary.
Contorting her body in ways that I don't even know how you do.
You know, we always say before, sometimes you got to take these chances. You got to take these gambles to put in a little bit of excitement in. And, man, the Cougars, they've taken 2 big risks so far, and they have paid off.
An aerial assassin.
One might say that she elevated to the sky, and she has been terrific. And so now we move on to the 6th element. For the Lions, your 6th element representative will be number 21, Luann LeGregan.
And that corkscrew by Vereen. Man, that was special.
Yep. And then for the Cougars, as LeGregan will have her hands full dealing with number 9, Piper Fitzmaurice, who will be the representative in the 6.
Yeah, don't count out to Gregan. She's been one of the most impressive athletes for Georgian court today. She's took on a lot of that toll, a lot of that top ability, and you know, flying abilities that Georgian court's needed, and she's been in a lot of those spots. So expect for her to have a great performance in her own right, Lorraine, as she attempts the 6 elements of tumbling.
And once again, as you can see, LeGregan starting off at the back corner.
A long running start. Looks like she just came out of that door in the corner, and she's ready to go.
Got to get that running start. It's going to use that speed to really fly through on the 6th element. Here come the Lions.
Very confident. Gregan throws her hands up.
It's a very good job. It certainly kind of scared me towards the end as LeGregan was kind of losing a little bit of momentum.
Yep, I noticed that as well. A little slowing down at the end, trying to keep her backflip momentum going, and a nice job there.
Did a great job, though, to keep up and finished off strong. This event has been too tough to call. I'm going to really, I think this event might be the make or break point.
You know, we'll see. It always comes down to that team event, I feel like, and if someone has a major error there, that's where you lose a lot of the points. And
it's a very strong point you just made there. As after the 6th element, we will have the open. But first, Piper Fitzmaurice getting set up, as she will be the Cougars representative in the sixth element. Fitzmaurice, you've seen today, has flown all around this gym, and she's about to fly in the sixth element tumble. So here comes Fitzmaurice. Cougars are fired up. Here she goes.
Easy for Fitzmaurice, making it look so easy.
You can see Coach Boyd, she was ecstatic for that great job by Fitzmaurice flying through. And so now we get set for the open. And for the open, for the Lions, Catherine Santice is going to be the representative, and she'll have her hands full dealing with the Caldwell captain, Jill Riggio, who is the representative for the Cougars.
So 2 more performances, 1 for both sides in the tumbling event, and then we're on to the final team event in such a tight battle here. Santice will have to go at it, and the Lions could use as many points as they can get, because with the way that the Cougars have performed in the last aerial and six element, the Lions may find themselves trailing after this event by even more than they came in with.
See how the Lions can do. Santice has been great today. Being kind of that all-arounder. She's flown around. We've seen her kind of be a base as well. And so the final event, or the final heat of the tumbling event in the open. Santice getting set. Here they go.
Wow, that is phenomenal from Santice, and she's got those long legs that make those moves look even more impressive. The aerial right away into a little triple back handspring, able to land it.
Exactly, kind of a front cartwheel that she had to kick things off. That got the crowd jumping a little bit. Great job here by the Lions. Again, they've kept it close. I think you have to give credit to this Lions roster. They have kept this very, very close. But it's also a big testament to the Cougars when you consider they had a very rough go early on. How they've been able to get back and hold on to the lead has been impressive. So Riggio getting set up, getting some words of advice from Coach Palmieri. Riggio, the junior here, the captain as well, one of 3 captains named. Coach Boyd stands at the opposite end of the gym, getting ready to go. After this, folks, we will have the score updates for the tumbling event, and then we will move on to the team event, which is getting extremely close to call. And Jill Riggio getting set up to finish off the open.
Fortunately for Jill, not the best landing in the end. She had a good start, just kind of lost her momentum.
Exactly, kind of loses your momentum. It's one of those things where, again, you get that running start. It helps out very, very early on. And you give her credit, the first 2 flips really kind of showed a lot of momentum, but then you got to hold on to it towards the end. But that's still a great performance.
It was a great performance, but I think that'll open the door back up for the Lions in the tumbling event overall, as our scores are starting to be put in here. Caldwell will take the duos and trios by 1 in each. In the quad, Caldwell blows out the Lions, scoring 7, while quad for Georgian court was only a 4.6. So as we mentioned, Caldwell was dominating this event. In the aerial, Caldwell also beats Georgian court by almost 2. And we'll get the total event scores, obviously, for both sides and the total day score so far going into the team event. Caldwell, up until the Open, has won every single variation of the tumbling event. I expect the Open to go to the Lions because of that slip by Riggio there. And let's see how much it dings Caldwell.
And the Lions will score a 36.85 in the tumbling event. Not the score that I think you're looking for Coach Marcia. So the Lions now, their total score is a
136.9.
As we are still awaiting the score for the Cougars portion of the Open.
Maybe a little discourse going on and what to score the last performance by Riggio.
Exactly. While we wait for that, though, the Cougars are getting set up, and actually the Lions are almost ready to go.
And Riggio will come away with the 6.55. So not dinged too bad. Caldwell's final score in that tumbling event is 43.2. They defeat the Lions in the tumbling event by around 6.
That's a big lead there for the Cougars. Caldwell needed that. So now we move on.
And the total scores going into the final event, which is the team, is Caldwell 143.5, Georgian court 136.9. So a comfortable 6 to 7-ish point lead for the Cougars. But the team event, anything can happen. But Caldwell so far on top.
Exactly, anything can happen in the team event. Partner, if you're the Lions,
this has to be perfect.
I
mean, it has to be perfect. You blew the lead that you had early on, and obviously did not have your best performance in the toss nor the tumbling. So Georgia court's going to have to come together. They have 20 ladies out there. They all step on the floor at the same time. We'll see what kind of team performance they can have.
Exactly. The team event encompasses everything you have watched in the first 5 events. The team event will feature up to 24 athletes on the floor at one time performing skills in acro, toss, pyramid, and tumbling in a routine set to music. Each routine contains required skills and optional skills, and the start value is based on the difficulty of skills selected to fulfill requirements. There will be deductions based on executions in the same of this event as in the previous events, so things that could lose you points in the previous events will lose you points here. Lions are down, but they are certainly not out. It's a 7-point game, basically. And I think, as you said before, Trevor, I think if you're the Lions, you need a picture-perfect team event. Although I've recently looked down to my left, and I'm seeing by the trainer area, Piper Fitzmaurice. And she is getting checked on. That certainly is potentially going to be a big loss for the Cougars. Fitzmaurice so vital on this team.
Yeah, she's trying to jump around, say she's good to go. Shaking off whatever the trainer's trying to feed her.
Believe maybe she might have dinged up during I believe it was the 6 element. I believe she might have just dinged up her left ankle.
And she's trying to put all the weight she can on it right now, jump around and say she's fine. Thumbs up, looks like it was given by the trainer.
Yeah, maybe trying to get the blood flow back into her ankle. But nonetheless, the Lions step out on the floor. Georgian Court Lions will finish off in the team event.
Right in front on the left is Marisol. She'll start down. Team's in position, thumbs up given. Here comes the routine music, the choreography. Back to that bridge pyramid again.
Lions have been looking good so far. Very strong ending by the Lions. Very solid team event indeed. A little bit of complications coming on the pyramid portion, but they finished off very, very strong in the toss and tumbling as well.
That is a very impressive performance from the Lions. You saw the coaches fired up. Obviously, early I thought I saw some problems with the synchronization, but they were able to really get back into it and many flawless moves throughout. I thought Santice did a phenomenal job. And you saw the energy. Great choreography as well, having the Georgian Court Lions thrown in, voiced over in the song. Overall, really solid performance.
Exactly. Very strong outing to end off for the Lions. Again, a little bit of kind of coordination issues going on in the pyramid, but they certainly made up for it in that toss, and that tumble was excellent. And then they ended off very, very strong. Cougars got a lot to work with, though, even though they do hold the lead. That was a very, very great performance. We'll see how the Cougars can match it. Coach Boyd hyping up her athletes now. Caldwell does hold on to a 7-point lead, but we'll see how long they can keep it up.
It's a solid ending for the Lions, though.
That is
Really
a very,
is.
very solid ending. Again, I mean, you're not necessarily happy about the performance in the tumble, but my oh my, did they make up for it in that team event. As a hush has formed over the crowd as we await the Cougars.
I mean, this is really anybody's game. 7-point lead, not that much, especially when you're going into this event.
This is anybody's match. Really, you put that perfectly. This is still anybody's match. No team has really ran away with this today.
You see kind of the Cougars in a prayer circle, hoping everything goes right. As I mentioned, the team performance is the thing that these schools practice the most, usually end their practice with. I was able to sit in on a practice early in the season, and I was watching the Cougars work on this team performance, try to nail that choreography down, and they were doing a nice job. It was an early morning practice. I think Coach Boyd likes what she has in this group, sending obviously 22 women out there versus the 20 for Georgian Court. The maximum is 24, and I'll send everybody out there who can go out there. So all hands on deck for the Cougars, trying to follow that performance from the Lions and hopefully finish this meet off and get a win.
So for Coach Boyd, this would be her second home win in this stadium. First win, and what a way to kick off 2025 it would be for the Cougars to get a big home victory. Crowd is pumped up. Cougars step out of the huddle. They are ready to go. Coach Boyd giving some final words of encouragement.
Nerves kind of settling in here for the Cougars.
I think so.
Some of the faces, you know.
I think maybe it's nerves. I also think it's one of those.
Well, you got to remember everything you got to do, right? The spacing, each movement, laterally, horizontally.
Words of encouragement coming from the Lions. Love to see great sportsmanship.
I think it's easier to get it out of the way, you know, being that team that goes first. You feel like you don't have that pressure running on you as our judges. We could see them from here going through the scores on what they're going to be putting in for Georgian court. And but we'll have both scores coming in after this Caldwell performance.
Partner, I got to be honest. I got to stand for this. I'm getting
Partner's getting
goosebumps
real
just
giddy
waiting.
up here.
Getting goosebumps just waiting for this. See the Cougars, they're getting fired up.
Yeah, the encouragement from the Lions. If you were out there, would you want to hear the encouragement from the other team? Because it's almost like, you know, it is encouraging, but do you take it more as like a patronizing kind of thing, like they're taunting us?
I think it's certainly a mix. I think you certainly do want to hear the encouragement, especially when you consider this is the last thing. You want to finish off with a bang. I also think, though, if you're the Cougars, you want to get dialed in and ready to go. A roar comes over the Newman Center. Cougars make their way onto the mat. Here we go. Caldwell Cougars team event
Starts now. And a good ending from the Cougars to finish up the team event. Obviously, partner, we're going to get into it.
Boy, howdy, we were holding our breath watching that.
You know,
This
is going to be a
this
tight
is an
score
interesting.
at the
That is
end,
an
and-
interesting way to put it.
And unfortunately, we will have to go through the two major faults there with early on Piper Fitzmaurice.
Yeah, both teams really kind of struggling a little bit with that pyramid portion in that team.
She was unable to keep her balance, and they were unable to keep her up. So she went falling down early in that team performance. Unfortunate to see as a Cougar fan, and obviously we saw the same thing a little bit later on with Cadence finding in that pyramid as well. It's hard to keep these women up. You need immense strength for all this time. Think about all the events that they've gone through, and obviously if you're Coach Boyd, you would have liked a more flawless team event, and that could be something that does cost the Cougars this meet. We'll see what the judges have in store.
You know, we give these athletes a lot of credit for a lot of the athletic things that they do, all the flips and stuff like that. What I don't think we really understand is the amount of work that goes into it. There is so much stamina and strength that needs to go into this. And you're seeing it firsthand here that, you know, you can be technically great in the world. Sometimes, though, the body just won't hold. As we await the scores for the team event.
That's a great point, right? You practice that team event. And I bet a lot of times in practice it is flawless, but can you really simulate how tired you're going to be in a meet? And obviously with all the pressure on you, you know, you don't have a crowd like this at practice every day. This is one of those sports where, you know, think about all the sports, the fans are there, they're just in the background. In this sport, the fans are the ones directly watching you, making eye contact with you, because it's your job to entertain them and the judges to do, you know, your best kind of performance. You don't see that in a lot of sports.
That's a very great point you just made there. The fans really do add to this, and you hit it on the nail there, where you can practice this great all you want to. You can't simulate what it's going to be like when you get out here in front of a jam-packed gym that is of people losing their minds. You can't simulate that. But I think both teams put on excellent performances today. And I think we are going to see a very, very tight race. For the Cougars, though, after today, their next match will be next week on Thursday, February 27th at 6 p.m. They head down to Springfield, Massachusetts to take on American International College, or head up to Springfield, Massachusetts to take on AIC.
After that, they're at Stevenson, and remember, key win for Stevenson.
Remember, Stevenson was the first home victory for the Cougars. The team event score has been entered for Georgian Court, scoring a 62.81. The Lions will finish with a score of 199.71. For the Cougars, we are awaiting the score.
And we'll get it to you firsthand while these fans around us wait to have it heard by Jerry Milani. But the Lions do end with a 199.71.
As we look down to our left, the Cougars all huddled up in a bit of a prayer circle. You can see the Lions to our right doing the same thing. Both teams looking to start off with a victory here. Again, for Coach Boyd, this will be her second home victory. It'll be fourth in the program history, potentially today. But man, oh man, this is going to be a nail-biter.
Yeah, it's going to be a close one. And
as we await this final score.
I wouldn't be surprised if Georgian Court did have the score advantage on the team performance, but we shall see. Caldwell did a nice job ending that team performance and took a lot of risks as well, which you got to appreciate if you're the judges.
We want to give a special mention as we await for the score to come down. Our scoring table, Jerry Milani, Torian Jones entering in the scores to the scoring chart. Thank them so much. Up here in the booth, we want to give a special shout out to the one and only Ethan Edwards, doing a great job on the stream, working the camera and working the scoring chart on the stream. Thank you so much today. For Edwards, this is his first acro matchup, and he seemed to have the time of his life watching this today. Can't wait to see how he's going to fare in the next one. We still await the final score. The final scores are in. Georgian court will finish with a score of 199.71. For the Cougars, they scored a 58.25. As the Cougars will take home the W, 201.75 to the Lions, 199.71. This was a nail biter.
It was. It came down to 2.04 points, but the Cougars start off with a win.
They start off 28-25.
Both teams go to half mat and shake hands. And what a match it was, and I can't wait for this matchup again down in Lakeland.
It's gonna be
later next month.
You mentioned that. This matchup going down in Lakeland is going to be huge. An excellent win by the Cougars. Great job to finish strong. For Coach Boyd, that will be career win number 4. An excellent home victory. That is the second home victory for Caldwell Acrobatics and Tumbling. For Nick Iacovo, I have been on play-by-play. Trevor Spinelli on color today. Thank you so much, Trevor. You did an excellent job today.
You did a great job, partner. The Cougars getting the second home victory ever.
Exactly. You could hear us again on March 11th for the second home match, and it will be senior day as the Cougars will host American International College. Thank you so much for watching on the CACC Network. This has been Acrobatics and Tumbling. Take care, everyone.